And good morning, everybody. Hi, I'm Walter. I'm the Dutch mentor, and welcome again to our Monday morning chat about leadership. Today, I'm joined by Midea. She is an HR professional with an interesting career path of not going once, not even twice, but going 3 times back to the same employer. We're going to learn all about that and how we leave, explore, get experience, never burn your bridges, and then be able to come back to an organization. And sometimes it takes that in order to find true happiness in life and be able to find a fulfilling career path. So without further ado, Mario, welcome to the podcast. I look forward to a great conversation, and I'm sure that our audience will have a couple of key takeaways that they can learn and grow from. Welcome. Tell me a little bit about yourself.
Thank you. Good morning. Thank you so much for having me on. Yeah, a little bit about myself. I always hate that question because it can go everywhere. So originally, I would say born in the Bronx, been a New Yorker my entire life. One of the youngest of five kids. My parents were immigrants from Italy, so English is not my only language. And I think a lot of learning from that family unit, a lot of values that really have helped with my work ethic. Started working very young at the age of, oh boy, is 11 even allowed?
Yeah.
11 years old in a pastry shop and scooping up ices, Italian ices. So yes, I got to do that for a very hot summer. And then that continued as I was going through grammar school and high school, continued working in the neighborhood. It was an Italian-American neighborhood that was really great to grow up in. Learned a lot about customer service, worked around different generations that were older. So really got a lot of, I keep saying work ethic, but I really think that that was ingrained in me at a very young age. And then, as I got into high school, got into a lot of um, different activities, always very social, loved being around people, got into theater. That was a lot of fun. Then went to college because I was told to go to college. It wasn't something that
Yeah.
I dreamed of. It was just like, you're going to college. That's what you're doing. And did that. Was one of those people who kind of just went through and said, what am I going to do in majoring, and landed in religious studies and peace studies and a minor in education, which is very interesting. But for me, it was all about understanding people,
Yeah.
understanding what people value, understanding diplomacy, understanding how to teach people. So that was kind of up my alley in the end. My first job out of college was actually right after 9/11. And the job market at that time, graduating, was pretty scarce in New York. You didn't really know what you were going to do. And certainly I didn't. And I was in college for about, I was an RA for about 2 years of the 4 years that I was there. And that's kind of a leadership role. It's the people who knock on your door and say, don't drink.
Yeah.
That was me. And I did really well with that, unfortunately. And that was a big kind of like leadership role for me, not realizing it at the time, but reflecting back, it was. And, I did really well with that. And I remember I loved being in the residence life department, right? It was the office behind the dormitory of all the students living there. Enjoyed it so much, didn't have a job lined up. I actually remember I went back to my old high school, which was an all-girl Catholic high school. And I said, I don't know what I want to do. Could you give me a job being a religion teacher? And they were so excited. They're like, we would love to have you here. But really my heart was set on working in residence life.
Yeah.
But I didn't have any real plans. I just, went to my boss, who was the dean of students, that said, I want to work here. Can you create a role for me? And he looked at me and said, no, my boss hates me. True story. He hates me. Why don't you ask him for me? And I was like, okay. And here I am, like 22 years old, 21, 22. And I knock on the VP of Student Life's door and I say, hey, you got a minute? And he was a former professor of mine, so we had a relationship. And I said, I want to work here and make me a graduate assistant, which you work, a certain amount of hours and get a stipend. I want to work here. I want to work in residence life and I want to be here. Can we make it happen? And he looked at me like, what? No, we don't do this. We don't just make roles. And I said, well, keep me in mind if anything changes. And then I left his office and just kind of went kind of back to work in the office. And then something changed in his mind when we were kind of towards the ends of that year. And I think he realized the value I added to the department. And they made the role, graduate assistant job in the residence life, first ever. So I got to get my master's for free. I always say, if you don't know what to do, see if you can stay in school and see if someone
Yeah.
can pay for it for you. So interesting note, I didn't know what to do either, right? So here I am. I have a bachelor's of arts. I knew I didn't want to be a teacher. I knew I didn't want to be a religion teacher, and I didn't know what to do with the peace studies, right? I wasn't going to be a political activist or anything like that. And I decided to go into counseling because that was kind of the closest thing. The school that I went to was mostly engineering, and that's not me. So I went into counseling, and amazing, got to really, again, understand behavior, how people think, how they value, and how to help people really cope with things that they're dealing with. So that was an amazing experience. And then the first year of that, I know this is a long story, but I'm getting there. The first year of that, the assistant director role, which really was one of the leadership roles for residence life, left. He quit in the first couple of weeks of a college, and it was like maybe mid-August, and that's the busiest time, right? It's when all the students come, it's when all the parties are happening, all the college students know that. And again, I was working as a graduate assistant in the office, and the dean came to me and said, "Can you do me a favor?" I said, "What?" It's like, can you just go temporarily, just do me a favor, go run the building. Just go run the building. The building was about 900 students. And I said, the first thing out of my mouth was, "I don't know if my brother can help me move this weekend. So maybe the next weekend." He's like, "I'll pay for it. I'll pay for it. Don't worry, we'll move you in." So I moved in. Amazing opportunity. Totally not qualified for that. I sure was an RA, but to run an entire operation that was, over 450 suites. It had the housekeeping department, security, health, safety, 24/7 living. I had none of that, right? And so I think there was a lot that he saw in me that I didn't recognize. And so I get in, he introduces me, I meet with the team. It's about 21 staff members, 2 kind of full-timers in there, part-timers, resident directors. And what did they do? They did not welcome me. They absolutely hated me. They couldn't stand me. I didn't quite understand, right? So it was a little bit of an evolution. And, I got in and I was very, I was going to say tough on crime, but really tough on kind of the drinking. It was just a little out of hand. We had a lot of kind of incidences that I would, were kind of scary. And so I, at this tender age of 20, I was 22 at that time. I can't even remember. Yeah, it was 2003. I was 22 at that time. And so a very young age. And I just got really tough. And you couldn't have overnight guests. You couldn't have like parties. I took everybody's beer. Everybody just hated me. I would stay up in the lobby to make sure you were the right person coming in. You're not sneaking in beer and kegs and drugs. And so not a very well-liked person. And with the staff of RAs, I was just very directive. Hey, this is what you need to do. Get this done. Because that was my upbringing, right? I worked in family-owned businesses in the neighborhood, and this is how you worked. Someone told you what to do, and you did it. You didn't question it. You did it. So I was very much totalitarian, right? Very much like, this is what you need to do. Okay, Walter, you need to come on your break and take care of this and do room inspections. And so they hated me. On the plus side, all the, I'm going to say adults, all the housekeepers, the maintenance, security really respected me. I had so much respect from them because they saw what was happening. They saw that there was less drinking, less mess, less throw up in the hallway. They saw all of it, and they were very supportive. But the staff hated me. They had meetings after my meetings to think about how to fire me. How do we get rid of her? Because again, I was temporary.
Yeah.
So those first like 3 months were very rough. They wrote letters to the president. They went to HR. They're probably now finding out my real age because I think I told them I was in my 30s at the time. And I got written up in the newspaper. It was all this. And it was just horrible. It was every time we meet, they just come and like nothing I said was right. And I just didn't know what to do. So I went to my dean and my boss at the time, and I said, I just don't know what to do. I can't take it. Like, this isn't working. And he said, forget about them. They're going to leave in like a couple of months. Just deal with it. Who cares? And I remember saying, like, that's not the right answer. Like, that's not right. And I came to my leader to look for guidance and support, and I didn't get it. Like, he was great. Like, I learned
Yeah.
a lot of other things from him, but that wasn't his specialty. But and I didn't know what to do. So I thought, what do I do? I walked over to HR and went up the stairs and said, hi, I remember her name, Vicky Cowan. She was great. She was director of HR there. I said, I need some advice. She's like, what's going on? I'm only hearing great things. Because again, she was hearing it from the maintenance and housekeepers. And I said, the staff hates me. They don't like me. Here's all these things that are happening. I don't know what to do. Can you give me some guidance? Give me some support.
Yeah.
And then she said, yeah, I can, are you ready for it? And she was very down to earth. And I said, okay, what is it? I'm like thinking like it's going to be this amazing conversation. And she said, you need to sit down with each of them separately and listen to them. Just sit down with them individually, all of them. Shut up and hear what they have to say.
Yeah.
I looked at her and I said, yeah, no, I'm not doing that. And that's what I said. I go, I'm not doing that. I don't like them either. They're mean to me. I don't like them. I don't want to spend time with these students who don't like me, who like prank me in the middle of the night. I was like, no, I don't want to do that. She said, well, it's never going to change, and neither will you. And I was like, oh. And so I then, kind of ignored it. And then I just realized, I think I got to do this. Nothing's working, right? And so that's what I did. I met with all of them. One by one, they sat in my apartment talking to me about how horrible I was, talking to me how things could be better. And I just sat there and stayed quiet. And it was probably some of the hardest work I've ever had to do. And I remember, like a story before that, I had a student who had to give their performance appraisal to, their evaluation. Yep. And it was like 2 hours. It was just a horrible from both perspectives, his and mine. I don't think it's our best moments. But I remember he was so angry, he walked out, and I thought like I really had failed as a leader at that time. And that's kind of what made me draw to like ask for additional support. I kind of missed that in the whole piece. And so after I spoke with all of them individually or listened, that's probably kind of went on a listening journey. I just realized, what they thought of me. And I really didn't know how to change from that. It was kind of like pretty heavy for me. I mean, again, I was 22 years old. Like I should be out partying
baby
and things like that. And in one of my counseling classes, there was this one professor who was amazing, Brother Ray. He's since passed now, and he would always teach in a circle. And this was group therapy he taught. He was teaching us as counselors to do group therapy. And I thought, what if I did something like this? A little bit of HR, right? Getting feedback and hearing, and a little bit of this like circular feedback. And what I came up with was index cards, blank index cards. We sat all together in a team meeting. And I said, this meeting is just information from me. On one card, I want you to say, the things I'm doing really well. Just list them out. On this other card, what's not right? What's not changing? What is really not working? And the reason that I did that is when I listened to them individually, I can tell there was more that they wanted to say, but they didn't know how to share it. And I was inequipped to even ask. or embarrassed to know, right?
Hmm.
And so I did this index cards, and some people, they were interested, can have more. They raised their hand because they were writing more horrible things about me.
Yeah.
And so I said, thank you. I'm going to read all these. And I collected them all back. And oh man, I get a little emotional because it was really hard to hear what they thought. They
Yeah.
called me a bitch. They said, I don't really care. And, that's not who I was. I really did care. I just didn't know how to
Yeah.
get there. And just really hard stuff to hear. And I appreciated them sharing that. And no wonder why they couldn't tell me. I was so ugly, right?
Yeah.
And they didn't know what to do, right? And so no wonder they wanted me fired. No wonder they tried to go to HR to get me fired, write petitions, go to the president. No wonder, because when I read all this, it was just like, who would want to work or even be around somebody like this? And I, remember reading all of them, breaking down, crying, and saying I don't know what to do from this. I don't know. All I know is this isn't me. And I don't know what happened. I think what I did was I just started to change. I think that was the moment where I realized that it really wasn't about me as a leader, right? Everything was about me. This is what I want. This is what you need to do. Here's the deliverables. I was organized. I had agendas. This is everything you need to do for me. And as I kind of had that little mini breakdown and listened to them, I realized, wow, it's really about them. It's really about them. Leadership isn't about me.
It is and what you are describing to the T is what I call the valley of despair. Right here, you have a young, enthusiastic RA who gets this great opportunity, who's a go-getter, right? Puts herself in a position to be successful, but then is not supported or given the tools to succeed. And all they do is what they have seen, right? Often we are who we have been with, the 5 people we have been with for all this time. Your cultural upbringing in a command and control type structure in an old Italian generational do as I say, not as I do as I say, not as I do type environment. And you see this, that you get in that valley of despair, doing to leading. And the pain that you had to go through is probably some of the best lessons you have ever learned in life. Because in the end of the day, by the shift that I try to bring to my clients too, is that this is not about you. It's not inward. It is outward. It is not about your ego and your pride and what you want, but it is how can you bring to what it is that they need. How can you leverage your super strength in order to be able to promote that? How can I inspire them to perform at a higher level by understanding the why behind it? So your valley of despair, I was waiting for this pivotal moment. You say, I finally came across somebody who is this great example, but sometimes there is not, right? And we have this so many times that we take these clinicians, especially in your environment, that we promote them from high-performing doers to leaders. Listen, the leader doesn't have time to coach and mentor them. HR certainly doesn't have the time and bandwidth to go and touch 100 lives. But they need to, so it's really that the drive that you had to succeed, to want to find out. And I think your mental health background or your counseling background probably helped you along the way. So take me from the breakthrough to where you are today. Why do you feel that all these valuable experiences, lifetime experiences, are now helpful in your role as an HR leader and in the current role that you're in?
Yeah, well, I have to tell you, after that, the getting out of the valley of despair, as you call it, peaking over, I then became a better leader. I then had team meetings where it was effective because I made it about them and their learning, and then I enjoyed being around them. We had, I remember we had pancakes in my apartment with all of us kind of scrunched in together and really kind of bringing them together, understanding what they were going through, right? I was going through situations, but even though they're maybe a year or two apart, they were going through things too. So really helping to connect on that level. And then they stopped having all the after meetings to get rid of me and all that. So it really, I changed. Once I changed and I did all these great things as a kind of thinking team leadership, they changed. Then we were a real cohesive team. And then I thought, holy cow, this works, right? I didn't know anything about leadership. I didn't read any books. And I thought, this really works. The second year that I got the job then, I did all the strategies. And I thought, man, I'm really good at this. And it was just amazing. It just flourished for me from them. And that's when I knew I wanted to be that HR person, that HR director, what she did to me in her advice and kind of that pivot of just saying, you need to listen to them, because I never thought to even listen, right? Full transparency. And that's what I want to do. So that began my journey of getting into human resources. And I really, then left and pivoted into, the healthcare industry. I think they were the only ones who took someone with no HR experience. And here I am running a 24 operation, to doing paperwork and like FMLA stuff and, offer letters, not really exciting stuff, but I knew that like I really wanted to help leaders. I realized what I learned, and I want to help them through that and be a partner on their journey. So then I got a lot of HR, generalist, business partner work, all that jazz. So it really, that leadership role of managing people has made me a better HR person. Because now when I talk with leaders, I know what they're going through. When they say, I had an employee just like, curse me out, or I had an employee who, I have to give bad feedback to, and they gave it right back to me. And I'm like, I know, did they walk out and slam the door? Like, I could really relate to that on a very different level that I think sometimes other HR people may not have, like that operational HR experience. And when you have that and you get into human resources, that I think you really are at the same level as managers. I think if you don't have that experience, you're a little behind. It's not like you can't get there, but you don't know what they're feeling. When you have to sit down and give someone a bad review, oh my goodness, it's torturous. Who wants to do that? It's so horrible. I felt that, and I failed horribly bad. And even as I got better, it still sucked doing it. So I really peg that experience and what I went through that really just taught me compassion, leadership, patience not only with others, but with myself, right? It's kind of like the saying, you to know it, you have to grow through it, right? I don't think I never get sayings right, so that's probably not it. But I had to really go through it and experience I had to get it all wrong. And I'm not saying I'm all right all the time, but what I've gone through, and then even as a business partner in HR, I really enjoyed that. I did that for about 10 years of my life. It was partnering with leaders. When they talk about being a partner, I feel like if you talk to any of my past clients, I really was. I wasn't really just the person who said, this is the policy, this is what you do. It's really now coming at the table with your experiences and really hearing and not being judgy. I think that's the other thing. I don't come with a judgment like, shame on you, manager, you shouldn't have yelled at the employee. It's like, all right, what happened next? Let's kind of go through that. Let's see how we unpack this together, like
a good partner does, right? It is So two things I want to just reiterate is one is that I find too that the best HR leaders, and I would almost say it should be a prerequisite. You cannot go from HR master's degree all the way up the chain without ever being in operations, right? So I love the HR business role, partner role, right? It is that it gives the person the opportunity to be embedded into the operation itself, to be much closer to where the action takes place. And they can then create that level of empathy, that connection, that true partnership and understanding. It's even better the path that you took, they came out of different areas of leadership and operations before they even went into that HR role itself. It makes for a better relationship. Too often we have seen that HR is kind of like this entity on its own that becomes just compliance and bad people and evaluations and raises and offer letters. But it needs to be that much more, right? HRs can be and should be that much more in helping shaping the lives of people and really helping promote a healthy environment and be that partner, right? Not just a disciplinarian or the union negotiator or mediator, so to speak. So to wrap it up, I would love for you to tell me a little bit. So I'm an employee, and because you've shared some valuable lessons in life that you're going to go out and take charge of life, right? And you need to go out and find your big dream and pursue it on a daily basis. What is it that you would tell somebody who is in your organization that has that feels that they have more to offer than just working on the front line? By the way, there's nothing wrong with being on the front line. We need everybody, right? But we also need leaders for the future. What would you tell that person that's kind of struggling? They don't, see the support from the supervisor or from their manager or from the director, and HR is this scary monster. What would you tell them?
Yeah. When you're in that situation, what can you learn? Right? Sometimes the best learnings come from the worst situations. And in fact, I think there's many who would say they've learned the best when they've been in those tough situations. If you have a bad leader, unfortunately, a lot of people do. So what is it that leader does that you can learn that you shouldn't do? You shouldn't do when you get to the point when you manage people. What is it from that HR person that you maybe went to or they're scary or whatever it is? What is it in them that you don't want to be, right? I think when you have that bad reflection, what can you learn so you're not reflecting that back? So I think that's something you can do on your own. Like make a list of, hey, my boss never says thank you. I'm going to be the type of leader that says thank you and appreciates people. And even if you're on the front line, let me tell you, your role is so important. I've worked with housekeepers and front desk staff, and those are some of the most impactful connections people can make. My mom has been in the hospital, and her English isn't that great, but she would say, "Oh, the housekeeper was so nice." Like you make someone's day, right? So whenever you have those moments that you can really connect and be that future leader, be that best service, or be the best you could bring today, right? And sometimes you have a bad day, but it happens. So I think what you should do is be the best you can be, right? We all have a lot of things that we bring into the work environment. It's just, hey, I'm here today to really work on X project. I'm here today to pass the food to the patient. I'm here today to do X, and that is helping someone, right? When you're in healthcare, I think it's a little bit of an ease because you can see the patients and work with them. But if you're at a desk and just typing away, and what is it that you can do in that moment that you can learn from? Having that growth mindset of thinking, man, I'm stuck. What would it take to be unstuck?
Yeah.
So kind of asking certain questions like that, or I'm in this meeting and it sucks. It's horrible. It's boring, and you're not going to get re-engaged with it. Hey, what are some things I can learn from this crappy meeting that I should never do?
Yeah.
And kind of taking point. It's in taking someone else's experience, maybe of presenting, and learning from that. So I think that's something I would say.
Excellent. Yeah, I always say ask questions, right? Be inquisitive by nature. And I highly promote people to use an individual development plan. Like I always say if HR is required to do annual performance evaluations, right? So it's an HR requirement. To me, I would do away with them overnight. For the simple fact is I want to shift the paradigm to the employee. Right. I want the employee to feel that they own a piece of paperwork that they are responsible for as a communication tool back to their bosses. Now, listen, in the real world, we always need to have employee evaluations, but I think an IDP is more meaningful to the employee than it is than the annual performance evaluation itself. But yes, it is. If you want it, you have to go out and get it. And I too always maintain a list in the background, what not to do when I'm right. It is, and I teach E plus R equals O, that live events are going to happen. It is how we respond to them versus how we react to them. It's going to determine the outcome. And too many leaders have grown up to be very reactive in nature. And being reactive, lower brain, is often very uncomfortable for the people in the circumstances. And just like your HR person said, why don't you go listen? Right? Listening is responding. It's like, why don't you absorb the information and let that settle in, and then sort that out, understand their why, and then respond accordingly. And that is going to give you the outcome that set you up in a trajectory of success. So the last question is, what do you do for fun?
This is so silly, but I do like to shop. I love shopping for food. I enjoy cooking. I love just sometimes I just like to get out to an outdoor space as well and just walk around. I really enjoy being in nature, being around family. I have being with my husband, my cat. I love my cat. So a lot of that. And I'm really now focused. I know this is tough saying fun, but I'm really focused now on kind of more fitness. So I've just been really training and working out more. And yeah, that is fun, actually.
Good
so
for you.
I've really been doing that more.
And I think it's a good takeaway for everybody here, right? Is that live in the now, right? Take good care of yourself mentally, spiritually, physically, emotionally, relationship, financially. All the other things will be that much better, right? That's really at the bedrock foundation of us. So it's good to hear that. Mari, thank you for joining me today. I really, really appreciate it. I am 100% sure that there are multiple golden nuggets here that people can take away from our conversation, that they can, really think about in their own life. They can learn to relate to these things and take action on that. So I look forward to continue the conversation in the future. And again, thank you for joining me today.
Thank you so much. Pleasure.
Talk to you soon. Thank you.